where the moon lights.
An excellent day for an exorcism.
I'm your number one fan.
Hey up and welcome back to the Rate Scary podcast. My name is Sccary Zara Mary. I am your host, and today I have a guest. I'm not on my own. Hooray! I have been joined again by my bestie. It's Rose Bish. Say hello to the lovely listeners, Rose.
Hello, lovely listeners. Rate Scary podcast.
Thank you so much for coming back and joining me. I didn't put you off too much last time.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
So for anyone who hasn't seen Rose before, Rose joined me when we did a review of our top and bottom films of 2024, which was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So if you haven't seen that, you can go back and see me and Rose again, or listen to us both again on that episode.
Yeah.
We were waffling a lot of rubbish, but I think a lot of sensible rubbish.
Yeah. Sensible rubbish. I feel like that sums us up quite well,
Yeah.
really.
Which one's sensible? Which one's rubbish?
Oh, I'm definitely rubbish.
No.
I don't think either of you are sensible.
No, very true. We're a combination of the two. Now, I've brought Rose onto this episode because if you're new here, I am covering all things gothic horror, doing a bit of a deep dive into the subgenre, looking at some specific films that I think, in my own humble opinion, are iconic. And this week we are covering off Sleepy Hollow, which is a favourite of mine, and it's definitely a favourite of Rose's. In fact, Rose, haven't you got a Sleepy Hollow top, or have I made that up?
No, I have. I have got one, and I wish I'd remembered that half an hour ago, because I'd have put that on.
I genuinely thought you were going to appear on here with your Sleepy Hollow top on, representing.
That would have been really good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll superimpose it onto the screen now for people watching on. Yeah, exactly.
Me in t-shirt here.
No, I was just going to superimpose the t-shirt for the whole episode. Yeah. Oh dear, but no, we are both a fan of the film, so it's probably good to say that up front. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into the film. Our initial reactions, looking at some of the visuals, some of the cast, and just do a bit of a review of it, basically. Basically, just chat rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good at that.
I mean, we've done it once before, we'll do it again.
We do it all our lives, pal.
But, listen, you've been on here before, you know I've got a question for you.
I do.
You ready this time?
I'm ready.
Right. What are you having, or what have you had for your tea?
I scarfed it down before this, some garlic chicken and vegetable rice. It was very nice.
That does sound very nice.
Very healthy and delicious.
What vegetables made up your rice?
Well, it was like a little salady rice. So it was like tomatoes, cucumbers, your favourite, a bit of red onion. Just all mixed in with some rice. It was nice.
Oh, that sounds delish.
I'm a bit garlicky and oniony now, so it's probably a good job this is digital.
Yeah, good job I'm not sat opposite you or asking for a snog.
No.
Yeah, that won't go down well. Nice choice there for a...
What about you? What are you having /had?
So, when I record the podcast, we make a purposeful decision to have something easy. So I think last time I had brisket nachos, didn't I? Because that's quite quick and easy. Yeah. So we're having a cheeky pizza. Ooh. Like a little rustic sourdough. Yeah. Lots of cured meats.
Delicious.
Having one of them. Oh yeah. Bit of garlic mayo with it or something, or sriracha.
For dipping your crusts. Ooh.
Yeah, of course. You've got to have something to dip your crusts in, haven't you?
Oh yeah. I dip all of my pizza.
Yeah, I do as well, to be fair. Extra
girl.
moisture.
Yeah. Make it moist.
Excellent. Right. We'll get into the actual podcast now instead of just chat, because I could tell you what I'm having for tea for the rest of the week, to be honest. But
we could maybe do that at the end if we've got time.
Oh, I tell you what then, we'll finish the podcast episode with what you're having for your tea tomorrow night.
All right,
we can bookend the podcast with tea options. We've got that to look forward to. We'll have to put the listeners and the watchers through us talking about Sleepy Hollow first, though. So, if you have not seen Sleepy Hollow before, if you do not know the story of Sleepy Hollow, if you have not watched the 1999 Tim Burton version of the film, I am telling you now, me and Rose are going to go into great detail. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen it, save this. Come back to it when you have watched it. That is my final warning before we talk about details. I figured, first of all, let's start with, what's your initial rating for the film? If you were going to give it a score out of 10, what would you give it?
Out of 10, for me it's a 9 out of 10. It's always been up there as like one of my favourite kind of gothic horror spooky things, and it sits within my era of horror and spooky films that I love, like that sort of mid to late 90s, early 2000s. That era of films is where all my favourites sit. So yeah, big 9 out of 10 for me. I think it only loses points, although maybe it's gained them after a rewatch. But yeah, some of the like visual effects make me laugh so much because they're so bad.
We will talk about those 100%.
I've got some notes on those.
I've got some mental notes on those. Yeah, my brain stored those notes immediately. It was like a snapshot when they happened in the film. I was like, yep, gonna talk about that one. I think 9 out of 10 though. That's a very high score.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's pretty high. I think, well, I've got a t-shirt of it, as you know. I'm a very big fan.
Clearly that much of a fan that you decided to wear the t-shirt for this podcast. So
It's superimposed onto my t-shirt.
Very true. 9 out of 10. Okay, I would probably go an 8 out of 10, to be fair. So still a very high score. Yeah. And I think that's probably an increased score, similar to you, since rewatching it last night. I was maybe a 7.5. It was still very much a comfort film before I rewatched it last night. Yeah. But I think I've bumped it up purely for nostalgia vibes. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, it's good to get that out of the way, and then we can go into a bit of the detail around perhaps why we've given it those scores. But I thought it would be good to give a bit of background on the film and the story, because this comes from, I didn't realise until I did a little bit of research last night, I didn't realise that it came from an actual story. Mm-hmm. I thought its conception was the film. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. I've not read it. It's only a short story, but I think I've made notes because I researched this because I was like, why have I not read this? So Washington Irving is who it's by, and it's a story from 1820, which is really bloody old. I was looking at the comparisons between like the book and the film, and there are quite a few bits that are different. Like Ichabod Crane was supposed to be like a really ugly, disgusting guy, and obviously Johnny Depp is not that, and things like that. There's quite a few differences, but yeah, it's only short, so I think I'm gonna have to get the book and read it. Yeah,
and I also read that it's been adapted for the screen a number of times as well. So the film that we are talking about is the 1999 Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci film. But there was a 1922 silent film and then a 1949 Walt Disney animation, which was one of the two segments from The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. And I remember having seen people going to like Disney World and Disneyland references to the Headless Horseman and to Ichabod and the Toad, but I don't know why I just hadn't joined the dots with Sleepy Hollow. And then obviously we have the one that we're going to talk about, which is Sleepy Hollow from 1999. So I was going to say arguably the best one, but neither of us have seen the other iterations. So the best one we've seen or read at least. Yeah. Shall I do a quick run through of the plot? I say a quick run through. There's quite a lot of elements to this film, which I'd forgotten before rewatching last night.
Yeah, me too. There's quite a lot of the like bits of the plot that I'd went, oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so much to it.
Give us a rundown.
Okay, right. So it's set at the turn of a new millennium. So 1799, we're about to tip into the 19th century, 1800. And we have a police constable, Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, who has been sent to an upstate Dutch hamlet called Sleepy Hollow, which has been experiencing a series of brutal murders where there have been decapitations. The head has been removed and then taken away. And there has been 3 instances of this so far. When he arrives at the town, he's greeted by sort of the town elders. We've got Baltus Van Tassel, the doctor, Thomas Lancaster, Reverend Steenwick, Notary James Hardenbrook, and the magistrate Samuel Phillips. And Ichabod learns that locals believe that the killer is the undead apparition of a headless horseman from the Revolutionary War who rides a horse in search of his missing head, and that's why he is decapitating people. So he's very skeptical of this paranormal story and all the superstition that exists in the village. So he begins his investigation, and he is staying at the home of Baltus Van Tassel and his wife, Lady Van Tassel, as well as their daughter Katrina, who he is very taken with. Now, when a 4th victim happens and is killed, Ichabod takes the victim's son, who we see as young Maspeth, under his wing, who is his little cute accomplice who joins him on all his little adventures and investigations, to investigate all of the different goings on. And they venture into the western woods where a crone, a witch, reveals the location of the horseman's grave at the Tree of the Dead. And he digs up the horseman's grave, discovers that the skull of the horseman has been taken, and therefore deduces that the horseman is coming back to try and find his skull. That night, a number of other killings happen, and Ichabod hypothesizes that the horseman is attacking select targets linked by a conspiracy, which involves, I'm not going to go into too much detail here because even I struggle with this, but the conspiracy is surrounding a widow Hardenbrook and the fact that she is pregnant with a child and has gotten married in secret to Peter Van Garrett, and the 4 elders are basically co-conspirators to this situation. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for confirming. So we've kind of got this conspiracy storyline going on. But then separate to that, we also have the situation that the horseman is real and he is out for people's heads. So people are still very much scared. Initially, Ichabod thinks that Katrina Van Tassel is controlling the horseman because she is very much of nature. She is a white witch. She casts what we think at the time are evil eye spells, but actually turn out to be love protection spells. And actually, the person who is controlling the horseman is Lady Van Tassel. Now, this is where you might need to help me out, Rose, because I get really confused with this bit. So she used to be, she used to have the surname Archer, and lived in a property that was a Van Garrett owned property. He was the landlord.
Yeah.
And he wronged her, evicted her family. They were impoverished. And she swore revenge against Van Garrett and all who wronged her, pledging herself to Satan, if he would raise the horseman from the dead to avenge her, and then claim the Van Garrett and Van Tassel estates uncontested. So she was controlling the horseman, she had hold of his skull, and she was selecting the targets based on her own grief and trauma and revenge. Yep.
That sounds right.
Excellent. And then we finish the film basically with a bit of a fight scene at the base of the Tree of the Dead. Ichabod manages to get the horseman's skull from Lady Van Tassel, throws it to him, breaks the curse. Horseman takes Van Tassel and rides into the tree forever.
Yeah.
And then Ichabod returns to New York with Katrina and young Masbeth, just in time for the turn of the new century. A very happy ever after.
Yeah. Lovely, spooky, happy ending.
It is a very lovely, spooky, happy ending. And the film is so much more complex than I remember it being as well.
Yeah.
Is it for you?
Yeah, there's loads of extra little bits that I'd forgotten about. The crone, the witch was... I can't believe I'd forgotten about that portion of it, because I remember as a kid that used to shit me up even though the CGI was awful.
Yes.
It used to proper freak me out, but I'd forgotten all about that and the backstory of Lady Van Tassel. I'd forgotten all about it, so that was quite a nice surprise when I rewatched it.
It is quite a complex storyline. There are a lot of moving parts to it. With those two separate storylines that are running adjacent to each other, you've got so many characters to try and keep track of. But what I reflected on last night, and also kind of going through the plot then, is even if you are not fully clued into exactly what is going on at every single moment, you can still enjoy the film, I think.
Yeah, you can. I think there's a lot of films that are like, you have to know who somebody is and what they did and what relation they're... But you really don't with this. You can just watch it for the face value of, you know, oh, there's a spooky dude in a tree and he's gonna he might cut my head off. Oh, you know, and that can be enough for some people. But yeah, I the bloody Van Tassels and whatever they were, all the bloody names of everybody, I'm like, I have no idea who they are. I've got a list of them all here just so I can remember for this, but I just, I have no idea.
Yeah, because you've got like Van Garrett and Hardenbrook and Van Tassel and very oldie worldy names that are very hard to keep track of. Yeah. And also you've got a bunch of old white dudes that all look the same as well, and you're like, is that Hardenbrook? Is that Van Tassel? Like,
and then you're like, Michael Gambon. Yeah.
yeah, that's what we kept doing last night. Right, so you've got Jeffrey Jones, Michael Gambon.
Yeah.
And the other thing that Will kept doing last night when we were watching this, which we will come on to, is we'll talk about the cast separately, but Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman. Will kept doing impressions of Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman last night.
Do you want to hear something funny? Up until not this time that I watched it, the last time, so it was probably a couple of years ago, I always used to think, oh, that guy looks like Christopher Walken. I was just thinking, they made him look really like Christopher Walken, even though he's got those sharp teeth and everything. And then I was like, it is Christopher Walken.
But because it is, yes.
Right. But he doesn't say anything.
No.
So I feel like I don't know, it could be anyone's face, but I was just like, he just looks a bit like him. Well,
and thank God he doesn't say anything, because the impressions that Will was doing last night, he was like, I can't even do a Christopher Walken impression, but you can just imagine that accent, that voice, being like, I'm coming for your head. It just would not work. It'd take you out of it completely.
Probably couldn't speak with them teeth in anyway.
No, very true. Very true. Okay, well, it's good to run through the plot to give people an idea who maybe haven't seen it before. That is like a very broad overview. I suppose we can get into some of the detail. Let's talk about some of the themes that we see in Sleepy Hollow, because this is a gothic horror film, which is why we're covering it. And with gothic horror, you tend to have a lot of underlying themes. So what's some stuff that you picked up on when you were watching it?
I think for me, I mean, this might be not really an answer to the question, but the visuals of how it was filmed and everything, especially at the beginning or the first half of the film, everything felt very silhouetted. It was almost black and white. It was, I don't know, it just visually pulled you into something that made it a gothic horror.
It is
one though, isn't it?
It is very black and white looking, isn't it? Got that kind of gothic vibe to it, that tinge across the screen. Very similar actually to a film that I've talked about recently that we went to see, Nosferatu, that kind of twilighty blue tinge almost.
I think it was filmed with a blue filter because they had to, the blood that they used was bright orange.
Yes.
It was,
and it looks incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it looked like without a blue tint on it, but yeah.
I'd be
to make it look
interested to
red,
know.
They had to have, I imagine that was really weird while filming, just like this bright orange goop.
I think some of the stuff that I picked up on that we can talk about is we have fighting religions. I talked about this in my last episode with the Vivitch. And it's very similar in that respect, that we have sort of polar opposite scales. In The Witch, you have this Puritan community versus Thomasin then becoming a witch. And in this film, we have, again, like a very religious community who are very superstitious. But then you also have this white witch element, and we also see it in some of Ichabod's flashbacks to his childhood. He's grown up with a mother who is a white witch, and his father was some sort of a priest and tortured her and eventually killed her, from what I can gather. So Ichabod himself has fought with these two scales of religion throughout his entire life, and has seen that play out at Sleepy Hollow as well.
Religion's such a big point, I think, in a lot of kind of gothic horrors, that it kind of, you sort of settle in assuming that there's going to be some kind of religious connotation in these kind of films, or I do anyway. And I think the way that they treat death is often something that I'd notice in these kind of films. So, like, obviously they were digging up bodies left, right and centre, and it is about, obviously, someone's cutting someone's heads off, so it's going to happen. But even in stuff that, you know, is less likely to have deaths and stuff like that, it's more, everyone's more comfortable with death happening. Like, I think there was a couple of the characters, like the young boy was like, oh yeah, my mum's dead, my dad's with him now. Yes. And he was just like, yeah, I'm all right. Like, and that's not something that like happens now or in, you know, this kind of timeline. So I think that's something that I always pick up on in gothic horrors, that they're just really comfortable with death. Yeah,
and morality as a whole, isn't it? Like, yeah, you're right. There's definitely that nonchalance towards death from some of the characters versus treating it as absolute sacrosanct, like the horror at digging up a body. How dare you cut this woman open? Like, it's interesting seeing that play out. And I think Ichabod particularly is designed in this story to be dropped into this village, this Dutch town, and be a polar opposite to all of their traditions. Like, he rejects superstition, he believes in science, and they are the opposite of that. They see science as an obscurity and embrace superstition as well.
Yeah, there is very much a battle of science and religion, I think, which I like.
I was going to say, I really like that in a film as well.
Yeah, good. And then there's a big old ghost on a horse, and he's like, ah.
Yeah,
shit.
We have ghosts. We have witches.
Yeah. As
well. White witches, and also, what's the opposite of a white witch? It's not a black witch, just an evil witch. Just a witch. Yeah.
Just a witch.
We have pumpkins.
Oh yeah, spooky pumpkin.
Spooky pumpkins. Nice nod to Jack Skellington from Tim Burton there.
Yeah.
What else do we have that fits nicely into gothic horror? Just like the setting of it. This, I think, Ichabod coming from the city and being dropped into this gothic village, like Pennsylvania Dutch.
I think for me as well, and we'll probably get onto this in a bit, but like the props and things that they use specifically in this film, like the mechanical scientific inventions that Ichabod Crane has, like these big glasses that do different things and all that kind of stuff. It seems really alien in the film, but I really like that. I think that's like, that feels kind of Tim Burton-y.
Yeah.
But also, like, you know, you do see like medical instruments and stuff that did look like that. So I think that's quite, I like seeing that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, we'll chat about props and stuff, because I've got quite a few bits to say about that.
Well, yeah, so let's start talking about the look of the film, some of the details, the aesthetics. Cinematography. What's your views?
Great. I think for 1999, I think, obviously I mentioned like the blue light filter and how they filmed it was like there's bloody smoke everywhere. There's a vignette on almost every scene. Like everything's silhouetted. It's really, really like visually dark. And I love that. I absolutely love how it's filmed and how it looks. And I think, didn't they build the whole town?
I believe so, yeah.
Like, I think it was I don't think it exists anymore, but it was a whole set, wasn't it? So I think, I read somewhere a while ago that it actually ended up getting infested with, like, bugs and birds and stuff.
Oh my
and
God.
all the trees that they used, because it was up for obviously a while and they thought they were real trees and houses and things. So it felt like a real place. And yeah, it's a bit weird, but yeah, I think the way that they did it and used practical things like physical, tangible sets, I think really made it for me. Because like you could just have we're going in this house and then the rest of it's CGI, but I don't think that wouldn't have ticked the box for me.
No, I agree. I think I read that it was Leavesden Studios, which was originally an aeroplane factory. That was where it was shot.
Right.
And even that place caused a whole load of issues because you've got a much lower ceiling to work with than you typically would. So that it meant that sometimes they had to be really clever with painted backdrops, and they had to play with like atmosphere and diffusion of light and stuff like that in order to keep it feeling real rather than just exteriors that were built on sound stages.
That probably explains all the smoke and why they
yes
the lights
so
down.
they said that they would mitigate that by hiding lights with teasers and smoke, so that's exactly what they did.
Well,
so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think it really does make it atmospheric and makes you feel like, oh, this is creepy before you even know what's going on, to be honest. It's good.
And do you think it feels like a typical Tim Burton film?
I do and I don't. I think obviously this was early days of the Johnny Depp Tim Burton relationship, but I think now I associate Johnny Depp with Tim Burton films, or a lot of them anyway. So I think anything that's spooky with Johnny Depp in feels like a Tim Burton film to me.
Yeah, true. Chances are.
Yeah, I do think it was very toned down from his typical like visuals, because obviously he things like Beetlejuice, stuff like that is quite off the wall, but this felt like it was kept quite true to the period. It
was more kind of Corpse Bride toning of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And with the darkness of it compared to, like you said, the wackiness and zaniness that we get with something like Beetlejuice.
The only thing that did feel a bit like, oh, that's our Tim, was the tree, the big tree. Yeah. I think like visually I was like, okay, yeah, I can see, that's something that's fell out of his bonds in it.
Well, and the other thing which we have touched on, which we can talk about now, which I think felt very Tim, as in look and feel, following on from Beetlejuice 11 years prior, is the CGI that is used on the crone. I think rewatching it last night, I was like, that's a Beetlejuice face.
Yeah. Yeah. It genuinely was. It was the crone, and also was there a bit with the horseman at the end?
At the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poppy out eyes. It felt very like Jim Carrey in The Mask almost. It was
it did.
so bad. It was bad, and it didn't fit with the. I don't know. Like it did just the CGI just did not fit with the what should have been happening.
Yes.
But I think I like it.
Yeah,
I think I like that it was a bit shit.
I'm the same. Like when I watched it last night, that scene with the crone when her eyes pop out of her skull and like snake and stuff like that, I was like, oh, that hasn't aged very well. So I found that a little bit jarring. But the scene with the headless horseman at the end when he's transforming, when he's put the skull on his body, I thought that worked really well up until a certain point where his eyeballs bulged, and I was like, oh, you had it then. Like, the CGI could have really worked then. You melon.
You melon. Yeah, I don't know. I think some of the CGI was questionable, but I think it's a nostalgic film, so I think it's going to be funny, and it's not meant to be. I don't know if it's meant to be serious. I think I've got some stuff to say about Johnny Depp in this, like, because his humour and timing in it is, I can just feel the Jack Sparrow coming out of him.
Yes,
and
oozing out.
and I don't know if it's like, if he's supposed to be a bit tongue-in-cheek funny,
campy,
or if that is just how he was and how he played it. But I don't know. I think the slightly campy, slightly funny bit adds to it for me. I think if it was completely serious, I'd be a bit bored.
Yeah, so, I think that's fair. I think you're going to get an element of tongue-in-cheek with any Tim Burton film, aren't you? There's going to be that underlying sense of humour, even if it isn't outright in-your-face humour. So I'm pleased that upon rewatch I still found some elements funny, and probably actually, given I hadn't watched it for a number of years, funnier than I had done perhaps the last time I watched it, I think. So it gets better with age, in a sense.
Yeah, I think there's a big nostalgia point, I think. I know you mentioned it earlier, but I think because I watched this as a kid, as one of, like, the first horrors that, you know, I was old enough to watch. What was it, 1999? So I was 9 when it came out, so I probably didn't watch it for a couple of years. But I remember being scared, but also being really intrigued by it, and I think I still get that feeling now when I watch it. So
yeah,
I think that it's good. I like that it's a bit campy and a bit stupid and a bit shit, and I think that makes it good. If it had been made now and it was the same, like, a level of it wouldn't. I don't think it would work.
No, I think if it was going to be remade now, we would probably almost need someone like Eggers to take it on and do a really serious, dark period take on it, rather than what Tim Burton has done. And I don't think it'd work as well, because I like the fact that it is almost a children's story. And I think it needs that element of fun to it, rather than it being taken as a deadpan serious.
Yeah, it is kind of like, you know, horror by numbers as a kid, innit? Like, it's one of the first kind of things you'd watch because it's not too bad. Although Tim Burton, not scared to kill a kid off, is he? Like,
oh no, you'd think.
1999 though, that didn't really happen. Like, when he pulls that kid out of the floorboards and has him, you know. Like, I think there might have been a bit of controversy about that. I think there was, because he was just like, whatever. He would die, so I'm gonna kill him. Fuck them kids. Fuck them kids. No, don't fuck them kids.
No, not in that way. I mean, yeah. Oh dear. Well, we've already touched on it a little bit. Let's talk about, before we talk about our two leads, it's worth touching on some of the supporting cast that we've got, because this is actually a really star-studded cast. There's big names in there. So before you even get to the two leads, so you got Miranda Richardson, who is stunning, and my God, does she look wonderful in a corset? And
she looks wonderful.
She's ample, and she plays Lady Van Tassel, who I thought she was brilliant as this stepmother who we probably don't see coming until maybe halfway through the film. I love the bit towards the end of the film where she just very simply takes her hair down. Like, that's all it takes to transform this woman into a witch. Undo a bit of your hair.
Yeah. Did you get a bit flustered? Are you flustered by boobies again?
Listen. It happens, all right? moving on. Another big name that we have, oh bless him, Michael Gambon as Baltus Van Tassel. Oh, isn't he lovely?
Yeah.
He's lovely in this.
Michael Gambon. He is really nice actually in this.
And arguably, I would say he also has the best death in this as well.
Which was his death again?
So, his death was in the church where the Headless Horseman picks up a fence post and lobs it through the window and impales him and then drags him through the window. Which then leads on to, actually, what I think is my favourite scene in the entire film, just as a quick, slight divert off from what we were talking about, is where Katrina has been drawing her love spell, her protection spell, on the ground, and she has passed out, and we just pan from the disaster that has just happened with the Headless Horseman whipping her father away down the aisle of the church to her. Like, I think that is so visually stunning.
It's really well thought out, isn't it?
Yeah, I would love someone to draw a picture of that. Like, just that shot from the top of the church across her. Anyway, completely off track.
Was an idea for the drawing bank.
There you go.
Yeah.
Someone who's not worth mentioning, Jeffrey Jones, dickhead, as the Reverend Steenwick. Move on from him. And then we've also got Richard Griffiths, Magistrate Phillips, who other people will know as the horrible uncle from Harry Potter.
He's a very good actor. I did notice that in this film. Like, even just his short bit with Ichabod in the field, like before the horseman comes and kills him. Like,
yes.
You really do feel what he's saying, and I'd never really noticed that before.
No.
Yeah, I like Richard Griffiths.
Very lovable guy, isn't he?
It's nice.
And speaking of lovable guys, someone who only gets mere minutes, if that, Christopher Lee as Burgomaster, who sends Ichabod Crane away to Sleepy Hollow. The fact they've got Christopher Lee, horror icon, in this film.
I did notice in his scene in the courtroom, while he was talking, that he had the wings behind him.
Oh, I didn't spot that.
Whatever statue was behind him, it was framed perfectly, so it looked like he had wings, like black wings. And I've never noticed that before.
I didn't spot that.
I thought, oh, that's nice. Well done, Tim.
Well done, Tim. He's got an eye for detail, that Tim Burton, hasn't he? Makes a good film, doesn't he?
He's not directed, is he?
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Anyway, that's just something I noticed.
I love that. I didn't even spot that at all. I think I was completely distracted by the fact I'd forgotten that Christopher Lee was in this. I was like, oh, Christopher Lee!
Yeah, I forgot he was in it, but he's only in it for like a couple of minutes, tops.
And right at the beginning, and then we never see him again.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah,
They couldn't afford him for any more, probably.
Probably. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
And then we have kind of touched on him, but one of the biggest names that is in this as a supporting role, Christopher Walken, as the Headless Horseman.
And his teeth.
And his teeth. Now, I've got something to say about these teeth.
Oh, go on then.
Right.
I'm listening.
So, obviously we know that the horseman has had his teeth shaved down into points, into fangs, which looks really, really sinister. Mm-hmm. Like, the horseman still scares me to look at. Yeah. He's horrifying. But on closer inspection last night, I think watching it on a big TV, he's just got blacked out teeth. So, he hasn't got... I thought on...
It's like penned in between.
They've painted his teeth.
Oh, I'm going to have a look at this.
So, I thought previously when watching this film, he had fangs in, which would make sense because the horseman's teeth have been shaved down. No. His teeth have been painted. If you look at pictures of him, and for those who are watching on YouTube, I will insert a picture so that then you can see what it is that I'm talking about.
I don't know. They do look like they're a set of teeth. Are they not? Maybe in some scenes they just didn't.
Possibly, yeah. I think it was towards the very end.
Oh, yeah, that does look different.
See? Yeah, towards the very end, you can see that his teeth have been painted.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't take away from how incredibly sinister and horrifying he looks. I mean, what a great choice Christopher Walken was, actually.
His eyes, for me, they literally look into your soul, and it's terrifying.
Oh, yeah, those contact lenses. And one of the worst bits of the film is when he's picked up Lady Van Tassel and has her in his lap and kisses her.
It makes me feel weird because he puts his whole mouth round her whole mouth, and that's not how you do kissing.
I mean, the horseman didn't know that, though.
That's not how you do it.
Maybe that's how he does kisses with his horse.
Oh.
And that's what he's doing with his lady.
Yeah, but I mean, he bit her mouth a bit, didn't he?
He did bite her mouth a bit, which, you know, we all enjoy. But
yeah.
Don't go in with the bite.
No, don't start with that.
You don't lead with teeth. You never lead with teeth in any situation.
Oh God, they're a bit sharp. Well, or maybe they're not. Maybe it's just paint.
Maybe.
Come with a black smear on your face.
Yeah, not good. Not a good look after a snog. Bless him. But I did think he was fantastic. And again, such a huge name. Like Tim Burton always gets big names in his films, doesn't he? But for them to be supporting cast.
Yeah, the cast is mental actually, for where a lot of them don't really have a lot of screen time. But no, I loved Christopher Walken in this, and I think he carried, like, even though he didn't speak, he acted well. Like, yeah, I thought it was good. You knew he was a scary guy.
A creepy fella.
Creepy little fella on his horse. The horses are really scary. That's something I wrote in my notes. Big scary horses, because they felt massive, and I don't know if that's how they filmed it, and but you know, the stomping of the hooves and everything, and yeah, it's a bit scary. Horses
even
are scary.
Just diving in and out of the tree, feels huge. Especially that very end scene where the horse goes into the tree and all the blood spurts out of it.
Maybe I've just got a thing about horses, though. I got sat on one once. So.
You've not sat on one?
No, I got sat on by one.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, that's not how horse riding's meant to work.
Oh, no, I know. I went for a horse riding lesson when I was a kid, and the horse just decided it was going to lay down with me on it.
Oh, and then you've not been back since?
Not been, but I didn't go back, no. So they scare me a bit, horses, sometimes.
It seems like someone sold horse riding wrong to the horse.
It just sat down, and then I was like, this isn't right. And then it just laid.
Oh, brilliant. And they are heavy. I've been stood on a few times by horses. They are heavy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough about my traumatic childhood.
Well, no wonder you thought the horse was scary.
Yeah.
I didn't have the horse in my cast notes, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Didn't Johnny Depp adopt the horse? Because his horse...
Yes, I think so. Gunpowder?
Gunpowder. Because he was going to get put down. So he adopted him. I've just remembered that.
And do you know what? One of the scenes that made me laugh out loud, and Will was like, what are you laughing at? Was when Johnny Depp is given Gunpowder the horse to ride, and Ichabod clearly has no idea how to ride a horse and is trying to manoeuvre him. And I proper burst out laughing. I thought it was hilarious.
Direction, doesn't he? He's just like, oh, no.
And then arrives at the crime scene 10 minutes later than everyone else, because he's clearly been farting around on this horse.
Yeah, I think those little subtle, humorous bits are what make it really good, this film.
I agree.
You wouldn't get that in a serious period piece.
No, especially not one with, let's talk about him, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp. This is my Johnny Depp era, I think. I think I like him very much in a lot of films, but I think this kind of period of the films he was in Tim Burton ones, Sweeney Todd, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's peak Johnny Depp for me.
I would agree. The whole way that he looks in these films, how old would I have been when this film came out? He's 15. I would have been 11, 12 when it came out. And I remember watching a copy of it at home not long after it had come out. So I would have been maybe 13.
Yeah.
This film was 100% a sexual awakening film for me. Like Johnny Depp of that era, absolutely. Like Edward Scissorhands in this. Yeah. I've got a weird thing for kind of gothic, skinny, anemic looking dudes.
Yeah, same.
As well as the polar opposite of big, beefy, tattooed, bearded guys. As long as you exist in
one of those categories.
one of those buckets, yeah. Oh
Or
dear.
if
Or
Miranda Richardson in
I was going to say, or right in the middle you've got Miranda Richardson in a corset. So yeah, that's my taste in people.
Christina Ricci film. Is it Richie or Ricky? I can never remember.
Let's call her Christina.
Christina. I like her a lot. I liked her a lot I've followed it all the way from Casper because I was a similar age. So I was in love. I was in love with real life Casper when I was young. So I kind of feel like I grew up with Christina in various films. So seeing her in this, I was like, oh, all right then.
And she's very, very beautiful and sweet
also
in this. Also ample, yes. Yeah. The chests are ample in this film. There's not many of them, but the ones that we see are aplenty.
Yeah. Bountiful.
Bountiful. I like that word. I love it. Great description.
But no, I thought she was absolutely beautiful in this film. I thought the way they dressed her, obviously she was like depicting a kind of white witch vibe.
Yes.
And she was often very much the brightest thing in every scene that she was in. But I thought, the way they like styled her hair, what she was wearing throughout the whole film, she was just a picture of beauty, I think, throughout the whole thing. I thought she was lovely.
And what do you think about hers and Ichabod's chemistry on screen?
I quite like how awkward he was.
Yes.
Very kind of Victorian-y relationship of like, oh, thou shalt show me an ankle kind of vibes. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it always baffles me in any film though where like two people meet in this sort of period and then it's like, oh, and now we're in love. And it's like...
It's very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, all right.
What's his credit score?
Yeah.
Do you live with your mother still? Like, let's check a few things first.
Does he keep bees? Yeah.
Does he keep bees?
I don't know.
Is he of beekeeping age?
Beekeeping age. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that happened. But I guess maybe that did happen in those sort of times. It was more like, oh, you're lovely. I'll marry you.
Yeah.
Everyone was dead at 30,
time,
weren't they? So, like, you've got to crack on.
Well, yeah, you don't know who's going to be offed next, do you? So no wonder she were doing them protection spells.
Yeah.
So, however, she did already have a suitor.
She did, didn't she? Didn't she just bin him off? Or did he die?
He died.
He died, didn't he?
But she did kind of bin him off as soon as Ichabod arrived as well. So.
Oh, yeah, because she said, didn't she say, what was his name?
I've cried all my tears for him.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm over it. I'm over it, mate. Get your pants
Basically,
on.
yeah. Don't worry about him. Let's talk about me and you.
He's dead. Get his trousers off, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, Ichabod, get them pantaloons off. Which, yeah, I think their chemistry on screen was very, very good. Like you say, he's very awkward. She's very sweet and endearing. We have that first moment on screen of her playing the game, the Pickety Witch, where she kisses him, and I just think they're so sweet throughout. She gives him the book, which he puts in his pocket, which saves him later on. I just think they're dead lovely together.
Yeah, it's quite. They are a nice pairing. I think the characters go really well together. Even though that's not what the character was like in the book, apparently, of Ichabod. Apparently, he followed her to the town.
Oh,
and was a bit
creepy.
Yeah, a bit stalkery.
We'll stick with the Johnny Depp version of Ichabod.
I think we like the romanticised version. Yeah.
Yes.
With that.
Let's not spoil or taint our opinion of Ichabod in this Sleepy Hollow. Good. The last note that I had, and then we can cover off any notes that you've got. I just wanted to talk about the score that is used. So it's no surprise, given that this is a Tim Burton film, that Danny Elfman, who is iconic, like there is no doubt in, his music is incredible. He did the score for Sleepy Hollow as well.
Yeah, I think I've never really paid attention to the music very much in this film. But I was paying attention while I watched this film again this time. And it was kind of very eerie and creepy and dramatic. And it was just kind of everything you'd expect from Danny Elfman writing a spooky score, I think.
Like, and I think the fact that you don't perhaps initially notice the score is actually...
it's a credit to it, really, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, because it just fits with the period, with the aesthetics, with whatever is going on screen. So it complements it so perfectly that it's not almost noticeable unless you are actually listening for the music. Yeah. Which I think, like, since the last couple of years where I've been properly reviewing films, it's something that I try and actively listen for now, because before I just would pay no attention. I'd just think, oh, it's part and parcel of the film. But it is a very typical Danny Elfman kind of tinkly, creepy score.
Some aggressive violins at some point.
Yes,
it's good. It's good. It gets really loud when people are doing fighting. You know,
everything you'd want, really.
He hits the spots for a score, really, doesn't he? It's almost like he's done it before.
It's almost like he's a famous composer.
It's
Rose.
almost like, he knows how to do music and that. Yeah,
it's almost like him and Tim Burton have worked together before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's a creepy little weirdo. Have you seen him on TikTok?
I have seen him on TikTok. Why has he always got his top off?
I don't know.
Right, so I've got this... I need to put this across to you because I regularly see Danny Elfman on TikTok. I am both repulsed by him and slightly attracted to him in a really weird... No, don't pull that face now, come on. I don't know what it is, like, because he's so creepy, I'm almost drawn to him.
Right. Does this count as like Monster Lover vibes? Because I
don't know. Maybe I need to go and get my head checked or something.
Yeah, I don't know. He looks a bit like he's made of leather these days. It's not.
He is a bit sagging now, isn't he?
Yeah. Put your top on, Danny.
Please listen. I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. Please, just put your top on, all right? Because you're giving me very confused feelings when I'm scrolling my FYP on TikTok, okay?
No, mine are just feelings of disgust. Please put your T-shirt on.
Either way, neither of us want to see it. No. Please. Thank you.
But keep up the good work with your piano.
But yes, we'll give you your flowers for your piano and your tinkly sounds and your violins. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Right, let's finish off with what's some of the notes you had. I know you wanted to talk about props.
I don't think I had. Yeah, I think just props was my only thing. I think I was looking at like the actual practical effects that they used. I think I mentioned on the mechanical stuff, which they made for the film, which I thought always really fascinates me, like with loads of little magnifying glasses and bits of brass and moving parts and things. That always
it's
really
almost like steampunky kind of realms.
Kind of, yeah.
Without the steam.
Yeah, just punk. No, that's not right.
No,
it's like medical instruments, but like exaggerated a little bit. I think
it's like Da Vinci kind of drawn instruments brought to life.
I love that. And the other thing was that the practical effects on like some of the gore. So like when he's using his pen or whatever to lift up the flap of someone's neck at the beginning, like the props just look like they're from a Halloween shop. They look like they're from like Spirit Halloween or something. And I don't know. I think they're just clearly rubber.
I like how rubbery they look though, because I think
it adds to it. I think
with the really, really red blood, which I think looks absolutely gorgeous on screen. I love how red it is in contrast to the rest of the film, which is clearly purposely done, like we've talked about. So I think having that rubbery element to headless bodies, I'm cool with.
Funny. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm more alright with it than I thought I was at first. Because I think in a lot of films, if I'm like, oh my god, that leg looks shit, or you know, that's clearly a fake finger or something, I'm a bit like, oh. But I think it adds to it in this because I think it's consistent with how shit the props are.
Yeah.
Like when all the heads come out the tree.
And they move forward suddenly.
Go,
yeah. Yeah, that bit always gets me as well. I'm like, did you need to do that? No, not really.
Yeah, so I think I equally love and hate that the practical effects are a bit shit.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think one of the props that I really enjoy that I think looks really pretty and I wish I had it was when I can't remember the name of the characters, but it's where the child gets killed. It's the little spinning candlelight that he's got with like the depictions of ghosts and witches that are projected across his room.
That is quite cool.
Like,
that's quite Tim Burton actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also very I'd like that as a little sensory addition to my house.
Sensory room.
Yes, that would be very
I'll get
lovely.
you one for Christmas.
Oh, thank you very much. Some spooky ghosts to go around my room. I don't know if it'd work because I'd just be thinking about the horseman coming in at any minute and I'd have to hide under the floorboards.
No, he'll get you. He don't care.
I know.
Kid or not, he'll have you. I think that might be it from my notes. Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing I had as just like a random thing that I found out was that there was a game released.
Oh?
Yeah, called Cursed Fates, the Headless Horseman. That was essentially based on the story of this. Like, I think it was after the film came out. But yeah, I think it was like a PS1 game or something. I'm gonna have to have a Google. But I thought that was quite an interesting fact.
I love that. I can definitely see this almost. They should make like a horror game of Sleepy Hollow. Where each night the horseman, that's a different game. The horseman returns, and throughout the day you've almost got to find different clues and stuff as to why he keeps returning.
Be really cool. I'm just having a look at the game, but I can't find what year it came out. I actually maybe don't think it was quite as old as I thought it was. I think it might be newer.
Oh.
It's like 2015, I think.
Oh, that is very...
It's PC game. Yeah.
I was going to say that's very new. It's 10 years ago, Rose. So, in game world, that's quite a long time ago.
2013. There we go. That's when it was released.
12 years ago, then.
Blech.
Yeah, I know. Maybe they do need to do a new Sleepy Hollow game, like my idea. Horseman comes out at night.
Yeah, it says on the front of the game, based on Washington Irving's short story of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And it's got a picture of the horse and the dude on the top.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was pretty good. PC game. Might play it.
There you go.
Yeah. But that's it for my notes, I think.
Excellent. Any final thoughts that you want to put across regarding Sleepy Hollow, feelings?
I don't think so. I think it's just generally an all-round pretty good film. Even if you're not that into horror or, you know, anything like that. It's a good whodunit and it's very pretty. It's a pretty film, I think. Especially for the era. Yeah.
I think I would agree with that. I think even if you're not into gothic horror, it's probably a nice ease into the subgenre.
Yeah.
Even though, like we talked about, there is a large cast, some of the storyline is quite complex, but you don't have to fully know what's going on because, like you have said, it's very pretty, it's very beautiful to look at. There's some great gore, there's some great protagonists and antagonists that you can really get behind on both sides. it's a fairly short film, less than 2 hours, I think it is.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking for a film to introduce you to the gothic horror subgenre, this is a great one. Like the fact it's got that Tim Burton element to it.
Yeah, it's like campy fun horror.
A good note to end on.
Yeah, nostalgia chucked in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Do you want to remind everyone of where they can find you online if they want to go and stalk you like the Headless Horseman?
Yeah, you can come and stalk me on most socials, just as it's Rose Bish. I'm around, doing spooky stuff.
And listen, me and you have got some cinema trips planned very soon.
Yeah.
Which means...
It does.
A return of Tuppy Tours.
Oh, Tuppy Tours 2025. Yeah. So
if you're not following Rose already, then you should do, because you will get to experience Tuppy Tours on our Instagrams. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'd suggest you go in blind and just come and see. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, but do please go and follow Rose. She posts wonderful stuff. Her Instagram is so beautiful to look at. Like sometimes I will just click onto her Instagram because I'm like, it looks really yummy and aesthetic and beautiful.
Pervert.
I know. But Rose is into horror, into gothic, into gaming, very much into her dogs and books and everything. So that everything you could ever possibly want is on her page. So go and give her a nice little follow and be lovely to her. While we're talking of socials, you can also find me on @RateScary on YouTube and Instagram, and also @Sccary Zara Mary on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky and Threads. So if there is a social media site, chances are I'm on it, including Red Note now, because I downloaded it in a panic. Even though I'm not in the US, I was like, well, I'm getting on the Red Note hype. But it's been lovely having you, Rose, and I have no doubt you will be coming back again.
So. Oh, haven't we got a last note to finish on?
Oh, yes, we have.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder. Right, what you having for your tea tomorrow night?
Well, I was thinking I might make a chilli.
Oh, very
like
nice.
A long cooked chilli in the afternoon because I'm at home.
Meat or veggie?
Ooh, meat. I'm all about that protein at the minute. So
yes,
nice mince and a bit of rice. Lovely.
Very good.
And cheese, I think.
Ooh, lovely.
What are you going to have for tea tomorrow?
So I know what we're having tomorrow night because I collected the stuff to cook it for tomorrow night on my way home today. We are having beef Yorkshire pudding wraps with roast potatoes. Hello. Yeah.
Hello. Delicious.
Yeah.
What a note to end on.
I mean, it don't get more Yorkshire than a Yorkshire pudding wrap, does it? So, on that note, see thee with this then. I'll see thee soon.
Bye.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
I'll be right back.
Game over. It's all for you.
Beware the moonlights.
An excellent day for an exorcism.
I'm your number one fan.